Hey, guys, welcome back to another episode of Devs Like Us. It's your girl JB,
I'm Clarence.
And I'm Terrence.
and today we're going to discuss the dynamics of a development team. Talk about some of the roles that are involved with that, what they may, encompass for you, and things like that. And, we'll dive deep into it, but not too deep. Uh, Without further ado, let's get it started.
All right, what we have first, JB? Developer round robin. Get some updates from everyone.
Yeah, I'll
Clarence, how
let,
about
I'll let Clarence go first.
Me.
Yeah, on the spot.
So every dang it, I can't find my notes. No, but
this is just what you've been up to for the past month
me.
or a couple of weeks.
The past month has
Just
been just I guess rolling through. Nothing exciting or other than I guess some family matters of my brother moving. But other than that, as far as everything personal, um. I've just been kind of just trying to get myself prepared for the end of the year. I know we're getting closer and closer to the new year, so just trying to make sure some goals that I set out. How am I doing? What am I trying to, I guess, plan for in the following year and stuff like that. So, yeah, just I guess kind of mellow. Been mellow. How about y'all?
I guess I'll go. So um, Currently I'm working on a couple my computer vision tutorials. I work a lot in computer vision space, and so just trying to, hone in on some of those skills, you know, build it up a little bit. Um, and that's, kind of my personal projects. I've been helping some friends out on some other projects. Um, and then just personally, I've just been, working on myself. Things like that, trying to keep a solid mental space. Yeah.
I get
I
it.
like it,
I like it. I
and
like
that's
it.
important. Mental space in this time is important.
COVID.
Some tough times. How about you, T man?
Yeah, it's been a busy year, man. So I didn't like with you saying how the end of the year is coming up. It's the truth. Like we were literally like in the last quarter. It's like 3 months left. So
Yeah.
it's been a bit crazy year since last meeting. Of course, I didn't make the last episode, so it's
And
been
welcome
like,
back.
yeah, with
We missed
school,
you.
thank you. With school, it's been like, wrapping up qualifying exams, and after that, got another job opportunity. So like working on like transitions with that. That's like my first time doing that in
Congratulations.
this career. It's like,
Congrats.
yeah, so yeah, I've been at the same, been at the same place for about 7 years. So that's like a big deal. So that's kind of like my first time having to deal with, everything that comes with that. Then also, what else? What else? Yeah, so with that, and then working on, preparing to work on new things. So like setting up my lab at home as far as like, how you want to set up like an environment that has the similar technologies and stack and processes as you might have at the workplace, so you can kind of try things and make sure like
Hmm.
you can, like, from an architecture standpoint, things make sense. So having doing all that fun stuff for the first time in a long time to, make sure I'm able to adapt to those new technologies as well. So it's exciting time.
All right. Well, in that case, let's go ahead and dive up in it, get into this dynamics of the developer team. And so, we're going to talk about some of the possible roles that go along with that, like I said earlier. And so, first, we're going to start off with the project manager.
Mm, mm,
Um,
mm, mm.
I mean, these are one of my favorites, but they can also sometimes feel like, the overlord because of the fact that they're there to keep you on track. And it's like, hey, what's the update on this, type of thing. And so either of you want to give the description of,
I got it. So first of all, you put project manager and favorite in the same sentence. I didn't know that those two correlate with each other. I mean, I guess if you have a pretty cool project manager,
I
but
do.
the the project managers I've worked with, I guess I can't give them all a bad view, but yeah, there have been some in the past where it's just like you promised what?
that's one thing to keep in mind. So the project manager, I guess what you're alluding to is they have to deal with like the timing
Hmm.
of things being released and given to the end user or the customer. So so I guess Clarence, your experience with the project manager has not always been the best as
And
far as
overpromising.
they promise stuff because they're the ones a lot of times meeting and all these things caveat all these things are different based on the team, but
Yes.
roughly these are like positions that are needed
Yeah, it's I'll
that
say
we'll
it's definitely
discuss today.
needed for sure though, because I guess it in their own I guess role, keeping up with how much time something takes, also including with the budgets and all that stuff. Like I mean, that's a lot on their plate, and of course they want to kind of see this thing through because our the team's win is basically on how well they manage every individual role within the project, but. Yeah, I mean it's a pretty important, pretty stressful role, but yeah, just funny to hear say favorite.
Yeah. So the project manager, I guess a lot of times they deal with the timeline, the
Hmm.
release of the release of new features within the product. They also do that FaceTime. They have a tough job because they have FaceTime with everyone. So they have
Yes.
FaceTime with the end users. They have FaceTime with those who are probably giving or providing the money or resources. So the business people, they have FaceTime with them. They have FaceTime with the developer. So like when you meet that project manager, most of the time they're not, they so the good ones can make it seem like they don't have a whole bunch of stress and stuff under them, but they're
Yeah.
dealing with like a lot of people. They're the one holding the plate with them. They're balancing the plate with everyone's interests on it. So the end users want their features. The business people definitely want to make sure like that we're adding the proper value to the product. So the project managers they have a tough job. They have a tough
Yeah.
job, and of course the developers they just want to say like, hey, we want to test this forever. So like,
Yeah, for
just
sure.
back up.
I just want to make
For
sure it's
sure.
perfect. Give me
It
some
is
time.
not ready yet.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they do put project managers in tough places sometimes too, with
Yes.
limited resources, sometimes even limited time frames, and sometimes too, depending on the company you're at. Some project managers are really, their whole role is just project. I guess in a sense, just the project itself, but they don't
Hmm.
know the ins and outs or the deep dives of a lot of the stuff that you're talking about. So when you kind of trickle that back up, sometimes it's just like, I'll figure out something to tell them.
Right. Right. Right.
But
Yeah.
they also
So
run into like the problem of like, you know, a client may want a Rolls Royce of, a product, and how are we going to do this? And so it becomes a lot of, those conversations with developers like, all right, so how can we make this with this much money? Like, what do we have to scrap and things like that, just so that they can go back to, the client and justify asking for more money when it's like, all right, I can give you something of what you asked for, but these things will be missing. Are you okay with that? Are you not? They're really good negotiators
Hmm.
in that sense. And so
or should be.
that too.
Hmm.
Should be.
Depends on who
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
working with, but
Yeah. Because
yes,
a lot of
sometimes.
because it all depends. You know, it depends a lot, and a lot of things like I feel as though the quality of the product serves a difference for them as well, as far as
Mhm.
like if the product is not like a legacy system and it's new and it was well thought out, like we're pushing out things and it's delivering value, the project manager's job can be
Yeah.
easier at certain times. But if it's like a harder project where there are like a lot of technical limitations to things, then like a lot of times you might have to deliver that bad news. But sometimes a project manager who's okay with delivering that bad news earlier or the realistic timeline
Yeah.
earlier and like being and like feeling comfortable in that is a lot easier. But sometimes it's like feel like their job is not as stable maybe
Mhm.
and stuff. They might just say, okay, yeah, we'll do it,
Yeah,
we'll do
we
it, we'll
got it.
do it, we'll do
It's
it, we'll
like
do it. We
it's
have
gonna
it,
take
and then
us, a month
yeah,
to get this thing done, and you just promised it in two
right,
days.
Hmm.
yeah, the developers have to feel that. So
Yeah.
yeah, so in my eyes, before we go to like the other positions, is I feel as though not the project manager is best when they have a lot of close interactions with the developers or the tech lead, like the developers, because there's no way that they know all the expectations from a timeline standpoint. And a lot of times, project managers are asked on the spot, "How long do you think it would take for this feature?" And like, so the best project managers, if they don't know, and a lot of times they shouldn't assume, they'll say, "I'll get back to you on that."
Yeah.
And talk to the people who are dealing with the tech, who are actually connected in doing the actual work, and that has the better outcomes. But I think we're going to kind of blend into another position.
Yeah.
Through
But I
that, and
also
we'll
feel
hold on.
like a good project manager has at least a slight bit of technical background to understand certain things, to be able to, in the moments where they can't go and just, run to the developer and be like, hey, what's the timeline for something like this? If they have at least some technical background, they can under, understand somewhat of how long something should take. It's
Yeah,
like,
and
oh,
that
it's a
brought up
button.
another.
I can do that, in no time. But it's like,
Right.
oh, you want all these things? Yeah, that's going to
Yeah.
take us a little bit.
And it's sad I left the position off, and it's actually the position that I've worked before. And so
Yeah.
on the next one, you'll see, because that kind of blends what we were just talking about.
Yep.
So I'll let you go ahead.
Since you were about to like roll into it as you started talking, because
Yeah.
you made a mistake and said it, which is
Yeah.
product manager. I've never done product management, so I'll let you explain it to me.
Yeah, I never dealt with a product manager, so yeah, this is all you, T man.
Yeah. So it's definitely a luxury. So like if you have a product manager, a lot of times that's you'll like your your products that are generating a lot of revenue, if you're in that type of space, and like in the private sector, they'll have someone who's dedicated to like, this is my baby. So like, the good thing is if you have a product manager, most likely you also will have a project manager. A project manager is more business and timeline. A product manager is like, I am focused on the product. Like the product manager, they do deal with customers and the developers, but they don't have all the other stuff on the
Yeah.
plate. So like they're dealing with customers and the development team. They're not going to be dealing. They'll
But
they'll they'll interact with the business people, but it's not the project manager's main.
mhm.
Will be dealing with the business people a lot more. So the product manager has some, they blend some roles with the project manager, but it's a lot more focused on the product. So they when it's new features, they're going to be worried about like setting up maybe like beta testers or end user
Mhm.
testers to test certain features, getting feedback from them. The product manager is also going to be working with another role that, can I say it, that they'll be working with. They also work, that we'll talk a little bit later, with like the Scrum Master on like timeline things. So like the product manager is focused on the product. They're worried about the usability of the product. They're talking to customers, getting feedback, and then they're also taking that end user feedback and like helping like plan out the next things that are going to be working on with the Scrum, like that the Scrum Master will like tend to work out later. So like it's really like they're almost like a little mini CEO for the like just the product. Like they're only focused on that product.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
So now that, you've mentioned it and we have our very own, partial Scrum Master, Clarence, tell us about the Scrum Master position.
I got looped into that role by just because I had an understanding of, or at least, so a project I was working on, we were of course using the agile methodology, and I was one of the few that really, I guess, saw it firsthand in a previous experience. So I kind of served that role. I probably didn't do its justice, but just enough to kind of keep the team on track with. The overall process and making sure things were kept moving. But yeah, the Scrum Master role was one role that I know in the past I've just always wondered. I know they have their own importance, and I know I filled that role, but it was still kind of like a question mark as to like, do we
What else
really
do
need
you
this
do?
person full time? Is it just like a
Yeah.
fill in?
So yeah,
I,
and I agree. So like a lot of these roles, people might share, like especially the roles that are coming up. People, it'll
mhm.
blend even more. But like for the Scrum Master, like if you use Jira or GitLab's ticketing system, like they are in these tickets heavy. Like they have the time frame pointed out to like this is what the tickets, like everyone's working on these tickets through this
Mm-hmm.
2 week time frame, and it might be 2 or 3 weeks depending on like where you are with the product. And like the Scrum Master, if they're having when you're having your updates, like some Scrum Masters might ask that you wait a ticket, so like they know like, hey, it's not the end of the world if we lose this ticket with the based on the weight. It's not like a critical thing that's needed. So like they'll have a weight based off of like difficulty or based off of importance. And then they'll
Mm-hmm.
have like burn down charts. So like they can hand this to the project manager, and they can say like, hey, look, this is our update. We're working on. We have 3 cycles until our next release, and so these are all the features. And the project
Yep.
manager can say, yeah, we'll look at this. This is where we're at. We're burning down all like this is all the work from like the burn down chart. And a lot of these tools have cool graphics that they can show, so they can show the people, the business folks, on the investors, like, hey, this is where we're at for these new features, so they can know like how are we doing and where we are from a quality standpoint. So like all the roles that we mentioned so far um, are extremely helpful to the business facing people.
Yes.
So are the developers. They're the core, they're the nucleus that we'll get to later. But like
Hmm.
these are the people who are reporting information up to the people who are like cutting the checks,
Yeah.
basically. So like the people cutting the checks, a lot of times, depending on the size, aren't going to be talking to the hands-on keyboard people for the most part for a decent size company.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
And I feel like the Scrum Masters, like, even though sometimes it can feel like, well, what do they do? They have a really tough job because
Yeah.
they are presented with this is the timeline that we have. This is my end goal that I want. Then they have to break that end goal down into like reasonable tickets that can be done within that 2 week sprint and saying like, all right, this feature needs to come before this feature because then we have this other feature that's coming. So it's like a real storytelling like process that these scrum masters have to do. And so I applaud anyone who does it.
Hmm.
I tried it once and I was like, yeah, nope, this isn't for me. I just want to be hands on keyboard and I'll worry about the tickets when they come to me. Um, and so, yeah, like being a scrum master is a pretty tough job. And then you also like trying to manage how much work you're putting out to, the developers and figuring out, who gets what tickets and all that stuff.
and they also work with another team member
Yeah,
on that.
I was about to roll
You
into
might as
it.
well.
Uh,
I feel it.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me
You
sit
yeah, I
back and
don't
just,
let
because
you
I
even.
was
work,
I won't
JB.
even
stealing my
backtrack.
thunder.
Yeah,
Woo!
I hold off for. I'll say what my final thoughts at the end is.
Uh-oh.
You save your thoughts for
No.
me.
And another thing.
Nah.
We're doing
And
good with
so
timing
the
now.
Scrum
Keep
Master
going, JB.
then
You
rolls
flowing.
into, working with this other person, which is the team lead. Because when you have a product, the product may be, split up into different sections as far as, all right, this is our search group, this is our database group, and so on and so forth. And so each of those groups has to have a lead. So that's our team lead who's, organizing the people. And so, how do you guys feel about the team lead position? Terrence,
Before we
you've been.
start,
Mhm.
J, oh yeah, JB. Should we just name the next one too together and just show
Yeah,
like on
because,
this size of team you might have both. On this size of team you might only have one of
yeah,
those. Like,
true.
okay, go
So,
ahead.
our next position is also the tech lead. Sometimes these two are, just joined in and they're just one person because of you may have a smaller size team. But if your team gets big enough, and by big enough, I'm saying like, what would you say, like 20, 30 or more? Um,
I went for that's huge to me.
it's
That's
a
like
really big like team.
yeah.
But I feel like once you would,
I've seen people have team lead and tech lead with 10 people on the team. But I think it all depends too. Like it all depends on the luxury like of
like team like encompasses as
yeah.
I was about to
And you know
say,
what?
y'all been fortunate to
Uh,
have both. I was gonna say most of the times I thought they were the same person.
no, I've been in a number of places where it's different people.
yeah.
But it's just because there's so many that it also is a sign of like how many people do they have to report to you? Like,
Yeah.
because if you don't want your tech lead in a whole bunch of meetings, and so that tends to be
Makes sense.
when you'll have a team lead, and like they will be taking a lot of the heat, so like the tech lead can still
Like,
be like implementing stuff.
yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
And I
Um,
was gonna say, like in my role as a researcher, um, I have my project, so I was considered the project lead, which I pretty much use synonymous with tech lead. So I had my own project, and so I had a team lead who, like Terrence said, went to meetings, and was advocating for things for me as a project lead. And so I was managing other developers under me while I had this team lead who's like, "Hey, what do you need? How are things going?" Things like that to really helped me out so that I could focus on, my own stuff, which is kind of like a mini CEO under, that product manager, which is the overarching person. So yeah.
Makes
yeah,
sense.
and this is definitely a luxury. Like a
Yes.
lot of times, and another thing with the team lead, tech lead too. I think it also depends on like what people you have on your team and what they're comfortable doing or willing to like do
Mhm.
without like wanting to leave to like another job. So like a lot of this also depends on like the goals of the people on the team. Like some people want to have like start like splitting between technical and like having manager experience and like being able to have like other responsibilities other than just your typical core like comp sci technical like skill sets.
Mhm.
So that like I think all that definitely has a play in it.
And so from there, that leads us into, the space where most of us generally start, which is in the developer space. And, there's a laundry list of like the types of developers or developer titles that can come from different jobs because different jobs will see the same position as different names and all that stuff. But we're going to focus on a few here today. So our first developer type is the full stack developer. Um, and so that's, your front end and back end person all in one. Um, and then our next one is the front end, then the back end developer. We probably should have switched those.
Re-switched it. Yeah.
Then you have your DevOps engineer. And we'll go into these afterwards. And then you have, your QA engineers, your testers, and things like that. And so I'll start with the front end because I feel like that's a way to get us going down the path. And so for the front end developer, you have your web dev and your JavaScript, sometimes Java. Uh, what you guys got? Uh,
I think that's all I had. You took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah. I think you could pretty much just put it all under web dev and just leave it there, or app dev, depending on, the
yeah.
product that they're building.
And for the backend user, it's just, well, backend developer, it's more of like your databases, any of your feature development. So if you have a button on the front end, somebody has to, go in, plug that button up, and get the functionality and all that stuff working. And so that's generally where your backend developer comes in. So that's like your Python, your C, C++. Um, what other languages? Um,
I think you covered.
JavaScript's also back there too, with
Yeah,
like
Yeah.
JavaScript out
Node.js,
there too.
um, which is cool.
You know,
I feel like
if
I
you
feel
really
like
advanced,
JavaScript is the only language that I guess that you really have like a true like front end and back end for, right? What other languages? I know Python has like some
yeah, I was about to say you
UI
can do some with
stuff.
Python.
So does C plus plus. I guess they
Yeah,
all have like a
they all
visual thing, but
can be, but
it's not. I don't know. I would never want to do that for
it's
the front end.
for for certain languages they're just better suited for front
Yeah.
end or back end
Right.
Hmm.
because like Python, yeah, you can use it on the front end, but I feel like you do a
Is that?
lot more work than you would if you just use JavaScript.
Yeah.
Um, and your
Yeah.
Python just be like, all right, this button goes, with this thing. Now, like You just say that this button calls this function and it just
Yeah.
goes and does what it needs to do, all in Python. Um, and same with C and C++. Like you can build a front end. Um, done it. It's not
Yeah.
fun.
I feel like it's agent technology too, though, and it's like it's not
And
gonna
it's
look
so simple that I like, why would you use it on the front end? And yeah, I would just leave it at that.
So is it safe to say that the developer is the one that after we talk about all of the other roles, the developer is just the one that catches it all, as far as like if the other roles don't do their part or at least do their part well, we are the ones that have to suffer.
Yes.
yeah.
Um, but that can also be used on the flip side as well.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
If your developers aren't performing like they should be, then your scrum masters just got a bunch of tickets that they're looking at. Your product manager is trying to figure out what happened to my features that I told the project manager that we would have for that business team. And, it can bubble up. So it's one of those things where everyone has to perform their roles. Um, because either way, you know, um, if somebody's not performing, somebody else has to pick up the slack.
Hmm.
And
For sure.
so yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely has to be spread out amongst the people. Um,
I think
and so,
that,
go ahead.
no, I'm saying I think that's a yeah, I think that's a pretty good overview of like all the different like developer technical roles for like a general team. Like the DevOps engineer, a lot of these people might share and blend. Like this is more so what they'll focus on, not the only thing they'll be doing most of the time,
Yeah,
but like a focus. And so DevOps engineer, they'll just be worrying about like how the system runs, its reliability, as well as doing some developer
hmm,
or feature implementations. And then QA engineers like just worried about like also like
testing.
helping it to be more reliable through testing, like
Yeah,
testing and making sure that we have the test coverage and that we're thinking about different edge cases and like preventing all those bugs from as many bugs as possible from making it
yeah.
into
Because there's no
production.
such thing as a perfectly bug-free piece of code.
Right.
But but depending on the size of the team, this could be, one person could cover multiple of these roles because of the fact that it's like, all right, there's only three of us. Somebody's got to do, like the development. Somebody has to be there to help test, what the other person has developed. And we need somebody to be able to bring it all together and wrap it up in a nice little bow to pass off to, the product manager and things like that. So it all depends on where you are.
Right.
Because, some companies are like, they will take this really huge product that they're putting out to people and they will break it down into micro pieces and it's like
Hmm.
this is all that you get to work on, and now you have like five people that's working on this one little piece. And you know and then you may have like some small company that you go to, like some startup, where it's like, all right, I'm the DevOps person and I'm the developer, like, well, the full stack developer all in one. And it's like, I'll do the best I can, type of thing.
Yeah, I
That's a
feel
great
like if
point.
you have all of those roles and everybody works on their part individually, you're living in the penthouse. You're living on top of the city. You can see you got the best views and all that stuff. But when you have a smaller group or a smaller team or a smaller company, it's almost like you're in the Motel 6. You're on the
Right.
Not, not exactly,
Yeah, it
because
is.
if you
Yeah.
have and this is kind of getting to a point that we had for later, but if you have a good development team where everyone is feeding off each other and like the morale amongst the group is great, and it's just like, a living organism where everyone does their function and it just works, then it's fine. Because then your tech lead can offer suggestions to a developer or vice versa. And everyone's just performing. Like, it if everyone's doing their job and is doing it right, and they can easily come together, it makes for a better work environment. It
I
makes for a great.
agree. Agreed. I guess. Oh, go ahead, T man.
Oh, I was saying, what the characteristics of a great developer team. I think like a great, basically what JB described, and I would even say like one of the coolest things is if you have a development team where you have a tech lead, but you also have like one or two others of people who are like not the tech lead who could easily be the tech lead if that tech lead was to leave or if they wanted to be. So like I think that like having that strength of like basically having people who have their strengths, but also I mean that's cool as well. But I'd rather have a team of four where all those four people could be interchangeably and just as good, more
Yeah.
so than like having everyone have, especially where this is the only person for front end, this is the only person for back end, this is the only person for
It's
DevOps.
one
Like,
of the figure out back.
I would rather everyone have a good skill level for like all the things that are needed for the product. So that way, someone moves on in their career or someone goes down, like that to me that makes a great team. And like communication makes a great developer team, like to where like everyone respects each other and people feel good about what they're working on and are passionate about working what they're working on. Clarence, what do you think are the great characteristics of a good developer team?
I think all those that were mentioned were great characteristics. I will say, like, I guess from my own experience, I feel like um, most of these roles they didn't have a specific person because everybody kind of did pull on or at least like pull into their strengths where as they could kind of play any of the roles kind of thing. But definitely one thing I would say is that if you are joining a team or if you're joining a company or joining a project, be open minded to that you could play any of these roles at any given time. Like you said, people get changed out, things happen. But, if you have all of these as luxuries, cool, enjoy, learn from each other and kind of build on that and, develop a great product. But if you don't have all of those things, then just try to pull in deep of what could you do to help out where something might be lacking.
That is the perfect summary of our last point. I don't even want to add nothing to it. How to adapt to joining a new team. Be ready to adapt. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's good, Claire.
definitely.
How
That's
to
good.
adapt. Just do it.
Yeah,
Be
be ready for
flexible.
whatever.
Be flexible, willing to learn.
Yeah,
Yes.
because I've been in that role where you had to do all, and it was cool. I did learn a lot, but it was sometimes where you get to your work day and you're like, man, I wish we had somebody that just did that, so then you don't have to worry about that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
So
say be willing to jump in spaces where um, you may not be too keen on doing it, but it's a gap within the team that needs to be done. Be willing to, do that thing. It doesn't mean that you'll be doing whatever that thing is forever. It just means that you'll fill that gap for the moment and then the team can progress. So if it's like you come into a team and it's like, hey, you guys don't have this thing that would help, make the productivity a lot better. I think I can fill that gap, type of thing. Um, Hopefully, it's not something that you'll be working on for like 6 months and you have contributed absolutely nothing to the actual product. But if it's something that's just a quick fix, be willing to step in, but also don't come in and try to rock the boat immediately. Learn from what's going on and how this ecosystem already works. Um, and then, find your space within it. Yeah.
Well put.
awesome. Awesome. So that seems like a good wrap up of information, so people know kind of like all the different roles from a general
Yes.
standpoint for roles for a developer team. Um, so seems like a good episode to me. You guys want to have any share have any shares for the week? JB, I think you had some a good share to start us off with. For
Yes, the Introduction to Machine Learning crash course with Google. Um, we'll include the link down in the show notes. But yeah, I think this will be, really great for people who are just, trying to get their feet wet in the machine learning space of learning, kind of the start of the Google way of doing machine learning and what that looks like, and things like that. And just being able to see what it encompasses, um, and things like that.
What's the price for that, JB? How much is that?
I believe it's free 99.
What?
It's free 99.
All right,
So
all
yeah,
right,
definitely, get into it, learn about it. Let us know what you think about it.
all right. Cool, cool, cool. And then also, so I have, I think I want to say you had shared this with this JB as well. Was CJ Crispy? He has a GitHub repo that has some really good interview practice. Um, Also in the Devs Like Us newsletter, you get interview practice as well, at least for like technical coding interview questions as well. So make sure you go to devslike.us/newsletter so you can sign up for our newsletter, and we have a whole bunch of great information for you there as well. But yeah, so this GitHub repo has some very cool interview practice and advice, so I would definitely be sure to check that out. Then another one I have is bit.dev. So bit.dev is a cool service where provides you a framework where you can actually update like different parts of your web application or your web components, and like so I think that's like a really cool feature that where you can kind of like start to be like the big players in the game where you have a website and you're only like updating certain portions and or testing certain parts of your web application while everything else still stays the same. So that's pretty cool as well. So I would check out bit.dev if you're looking to tinker with some new technology. Clarence?
The only thing I have that I noticed was the incubator.
The only thing.
I was like, my name
This is a
is
big
on
deal,
this one.
sir.
But well, I know y'all are more native to the area, but are y'all familiar with was it Spark? What is it called? Spark. I had the name and I lost it. Spark Baltimore.
I am not familiar with it.
I'm not. Tell us.
Oh, so so apparently they opened up this incubator space for new companies on the rise, and apparently they have graduated 5 different companies. But basically, it's just an open workspace for startups to come and kind of collaborate, maybe even help each other kind of get themselves from that startup phase to actual what's the word I'm looking for, like birth of their company.
Yeah, and this is. I just want to point out this is specific to biopic people. Um, uh, so yeah, in the Baltimore space, the Spark founder wanted to start a space for these people to, really grow their companies because, uh, you know, there's one thing COVID has really helped highlight is the shortage of money that goes to people in this category and to start their business and things. And so he's building this incubator space to help kind of combat that. Uh, that was just
I think
my
it's a
little piece I
great,
wanted to
a
add.
great, a great way to network and at least meet more people, like-minded people, and also, you never know what one idea can grow into when you introduce multiple people to it.
Yeah, it's a great networking space.
Awesome. Got to check that out.
Yes.
All right, everyone. I'm glad to be back with everyone, man. This was awesome.
I'm glad
Welcome
to have
back,
you
welcome
back.
back. Yeah, we missed you.
So yeah, it's been exciting. It was a good conversation. I always learn from both JB and Clarence, so I appreciate this time. And for the listeners, make sure you like, subscribe, join our newsletter, follow us on Instagram. We started to work a little bit harder on Instagram, get
Twitter.
some cool micro content out. Follow us on Twitter. I even heard there's a TikTok page out there. Don't know who's managing that, but go ahead, check us out there. That's all I have. My name is Terrence.
I'm Clarence.
JB.
All right, see you next time. Stay safe, everyone.
All right.